There's something about the sound of the sea that feels like home. I live on the coast and I've worked in maritime industry for over 20 years. During that time, I've seen more and more women forging their careers in everything from ports to policy, from bridge to boardroom, from fishing vessels to super yachts. But let's be honest, do we hear about those stories of success? Do we know about the challenges they face and the adventures they've experienced? Well, that's where Women in Maritime comes in a series of open and thought-provoking conversations. I'll be bringing you these stories and I hope you can join me. Well, welcome to Women in Maritime. I'm Julia Gosling and I am so excited today to welcome Sanjam Sahi Gupta. Thank you so much for joining me, Sanjam.
It's a pleasure to be here today, Julia. Thank you for having me.
Now, I usually give a little bit of a bio of my guests. Now, yours would take me a long time to read out if I read out all of your achievements because your accolades and your achievements are long. But in a very short summary, I'm going to mention that you are the founder of SheEO and that you are working to empower women. You're breaking down some barriers and you're challenging stereotypes in maritime, and that's amazing work. You're also a successful businesswoman and you're a director at Sitara Shipping. So I'd just love to find out from you why you founded SheEO and how that's all going at the moment. I know that's a big topic, but let's kick off with that, shall we?
Absolutely. So I'm also the founder of Vista in India, and I was the board member of Vista International. And while Vista is for women in management positions, I found that there were a lot of women who were at junior positions aspiring to be women in the management position. So there was a gap. There was nothing for them. So the whole premise that MaritimeSheEO is based on, that it's for the future women leaders. So it's for aspiring future women leaders. It's a safe space for them where they can come and they can learn from each other. So it's a community of women where we also conduct leadership accelerator programs where they can learn and also further their careers.
Yeah, and you have got quite a big network now, haven't you? I mean, this has been, what was it? Is it well over 15 years now?
No, MaritimeSheEO was founded in 2018.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so, and you have a big network of women that you're connecting now?
Yes. We're spread over 77 countries.
Wow. Well, and of course, it has to be international because maritime world is just so completely interconnected and international, isn't it? So I wonder where you got your drive from, Sanjam. Like, how did this all start? Because you're already successful in business, in maritime. You could have carried on just with that. What was it that made you want to start doing this, SheEO, and supporting women? How did that happen?
So my father is my inspiration, and we come from the Sikh community. And one of the tenets of our community is seva, that is means to give back to the community. And I've seen my father give back a lot to the community and to the industry. And I wanted to give something back to the industry. And I thought, what could I do? And this is something that I really firmly believed in, that, I wanted to help women empower themselves, because this is something that I noticed when I entered the industry, that there were very few women there in the room. And I honestly felt that this was something I needed to do to help the next generation of women. So in a way, it was fulfilling what I felt was right, and it was fulfilling the tenets as well.
Yeah, lovely. We are where we came from in terms of our family and the values that they give us. It's lovely that you have that inspiration there from your father to drive you on with what you do. In India, would you say that you saw a lot of inequality in maritime? I mean, we know there's inequality in the maritime sector anyway. There's only 2% of women working at sea still, and that's been the same for 20 or 30 years. Did you see it particularly harshly in India?
So I don't think that it's particularly worse, but because it's India. I think in the government sector, in fact, things are better. And it's in the private sector that I think things are worse. But I don't think that it's particularly because of its India, because of its positioning. Yes, I do think the patriarchal mindset does affect what the industry thinks and what the industry does. Yes, I do think that it matters a lot. But at the same time, we're also progressive. We're also a very progressive country, where we've had our Prime Minister, Mrs. Indira Gandhi. We also have a lot of strong women in our country. So I think it's a little bit of both, right? It's patriarchal mindset on one side, and there is this there is this side where there are extremely strong women as well.
So we know that in maritime there is a small percentage of women still who are seeking careers in maritime compared to men. What are some of the main challenges and barriers that you're working to ease, would you say?
So I think there are different challenges for women at sea and women on shore. So I think women at sea, I think one of the main challenges would be safety and sexual harassment, which is one of the key points which I have noticed and dealt with. And at shore, I think it's dealing with women who are not able to crack the glass ceiling, where it's also the self-doubt that holds them back. And it's also the companies who are, not able to put their faith enough in women to promote them. So we have to tackle it both ways. We have to counsel the women to make sure that they are confident enough to believe in themselves. At the same time, we also have to have the companies believe that these women can do it and give them those opportunities.
It's really interesting what you say about that confidence and self-belief. I'm not sure where I heard it, but I do remember being told that men would be 50% more likely to go for a job, for example, that perhaps they didn't tick 100% of the boxes for, compared to women who might doubt themselves in that move up, which is quite interesting, really, isn't it? Because it's not to do with competency.
Exactly.
Yeah, interesting. So we have to help ourselves a little bit in that area, don't we?
Absolutely. I think we really need to believe in ourselves. And sometimes the person who's holding ourselves back is us, We need to give ourselves that push.
Yeah. I think something else that's interesting about the work that you do is there are a lot of myths, if you like, or stereotypes that are out there that maybe have put off employers or given them a bias towards employing women in the maritime sector. You've also worked to actually dispelling those myths with some proper evidence and research, haven't you? Which is a good foundation.
Yes, absolutely. We've done a lot of research in different areas. I'm not sure which piece of research you're referring to, but we've done a study in 2020 on the business case for diversity, which actually proves that there's a positive correlation between having a greater number of diversity within companies to a higher level of productivity, profitability, and innovation within companies.
Yes. And I think that evidence base is something that you can use to say, well, it's not just anecdotal. Here's some facts about the importance of more diversity in the workplace.
Absolutely. Because as a business person myself, I know that bottom lines are so important. And if, you show a business person, that a CEO, that having more women means better business, more profits, there is no reason why they will ignore that.
Yes. And also it would be hard to fight against it if that wasn't the case.
Exactly.
In business. Now, what about the rules, regulations, protections for people at work? Is that an area that you are still concerned about, or do you want to change things in that area?
No, I think I think we have our laws in India are protect the workers very well at sea and at shore. So I don't think that is one area that we really need to look into. That is something that's very well looked after.
But in so many cases with safety as well as what I'm talking about here in terms of terms and condition and recruitment, a lot of the laws and regulations are there, but I guess some of the challenge is getting it to be adopted.
Enforced.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So are you referring to it, which refers to seafaring, I suppose you're referring to it?
Yes. Yes, so seafarers, obviously, we see it in lots of different parts of maritime sector. Lots of different regulations are there and pretty good and quite comprehensive. But where it falls down is, is it being adopted by the companies and the organisations? And then likewise, is it being enforced in any way? And that can be where some of that falls down.
Yeah, I think in India, I see companies having zero tolerance policies towards sexual harassment. The Director General of Shipping has made a mandatory gender sensitization course for all seagoing cadets. So there are moves being taken in the right direction. I know there's a lot to be done, but I do believe that we're moving in the right direction.
Yes, because encouraging women to work and stay and move their careers on in maritime, we also need to make sure that the environment improves for them, because I also have the Sea Views podcast, which I've been doing for several years now with the Seafarers Charity and with Chirp. And we had an episode with Ice One, and we were looking at this issue of harassment and sexual harassment and assault. And they have some research that was completed a couple of years ago with a lot of women working at sea. And it was really shocking how the majority of women had suffered some kind of harassment, bullying, or even abuse. And I was very shocked, and I felt that's a difficult sell sometimes if there's no hope that things are going to change.
I think when we had conducted on behalf of Vista International, when I was involved in bringing out the diversity handbook along with Anglo-Eastern and ICE1, we had done these surveys and we had come back with replies. And I think some of the stories were really heartbreaking. So despite all that we're doing, I think there's so many stories that are still untold. And the sad part is a lot of women don't speak up. So these incidents are still go unreported, and the perpetrators still go free, because a lot of times the victims of this harassment do not want to take the trouble, or it's her words against his. There are a lot of different aspects to it. There are cases where I have followed up, and very often it's difficult to prove. There is no proof. It's one against the other. And very often than not, we notice it's the female who gets taken off the ship, citing her safety issues. So women then just let it pass. But I think with more than now on ships, at least in India, we have this policy of more than one woman being put on a ship. So there are two women on one ship together to give it some element of safety or to make it more comfortable for the women. So I think we'll have to continue to think of innovative solutions and just keep educating, creating awareness about treating women seafarers with respect, the same way you would treat a male colleague.
Yes. And I wonder, will things also help in terms of new generations coming through and becoming seafarers who have potentially got slightly more modern or different attitudes to generations before them? Do you think that could be happening?
So there are two ways to look at that. One is, yes, the new generation, they are exposed to so much. So they have a new take on things. They don't think of it like the old-fashioned way. But the only thing that I'm afraid of is when these cadets go on ships and they work under captains who have these old school mindsets, then they kind of they learn those mindsets. And I hope that doesn't happen. That's the only thing I'm afraid of.
Yeah, that's a good practical point, isn't it? That maybe the officers and the leadership at the top level will probably be older, significantly older than the cadets and the new people earlier on in their careers. That's a good point. So, in terms of helping women to further their careers and to, like you want to do, empower women leaders in maritime as well, what are some of the main things that you're excited about working on at the moment? Because you do a number of things to help, don't you?
Yes, there are a number of things that obviously we are doing at the moment that we are still planning. There is something that we are planning for 2026, which I cannot reveal at the moment, which we will be revealing in the new year. So you will have to wait for that.
Oh, but, come on, can't you give me a little exclusive? You could just give me a little hint.
No, you will have to wait. But what we have done is we have, as you know, done leadership accelerator programs. We have in the conference come up with a children's book on actual women in maritime, which we hope gets spread in schools and in libraries across the world. So little girls out there know that these are stories of real women and that they too can be part of the maritime industry.
That's lovely. It's good as well. I have a 15-year-old daughter, and they're talking a lot at school at this stage about careers and so on. She's never shown anything about the maritime world. It never comes up really as an option.
I think we need to have more awareness. We need to have more books. We need to have more, career talks about maritime as a new avenue. We need to have things on social media so that the youth there kind of know that it's an exciting career for them.
Yes, it's interesting because you're obviously in the business side of things as well. So you're director at a company where, obviously you need to recruit seafarers. Now, I hear lots of talk in the industry about a future recruitment crisis. Do you see that already? Do you see difficulties with finding seafarers now?
I don't at the moment, but I know that we will find a shortage in the future. Because the way it is going, I think there's going to be a huge shortage in the future. And I think that we need that quality, we need that particular quality of seafarer to be there, to be accessible in the future.
I'm going to ask you something a bit difficult, and you don't have to answer it if you don't want to. But as speaking from the ship owner operator's point of view, for example, if we find that the younger generations coming in absolutely don't want to go to sea for 7 months, 8 months, would you be prepared to offer shorter contracts, for example, if that was what people wanted? Or would that just, you wouldn't want to change your processes?
That's a very tricky question.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
But if I may, I would say that would depend on a lot of factors. So as a daughter of a seafarer, my sister's husband is a captain. He's still sailing, and they've got twins, 3-year-old twins. So I know how hard it is, believe me. So I can really empathize and sympathize because, when you're sailing away from family, your wife is raising the kids. It isn't difficult. It isn't easy, being away for so long.
Yeah, it's tough on everyone, isn't it, that has to leave family behind and, for your work. I don't know, it's an idea. I guess business will decide in the end, won't they, whether they need to do that in the future or not. And that will probably be the driver in the end, really. But interesting. So I wonder if, again, I'm asking you difficult questions, Sanjam, but we learn a lot from failure. And I wonder if you can tell me if you've had any failures that you have learned a lot from, if you'd be prepared to tell me that.
Of course, I've had failures. I think everyone has had failures. And I think one failure that really shook me was again working with women in maritime. And this was before MaritimeSheEO, and I was mentoring a young girl and she was not getting placed. So I knew one of the shipping companies and I picked up the phone and I helped her get placed on one of their vessels. And I was very happy that I had got her placed on a very good reputed company and on one of their vessels. And I was very happy and I was like, okay, she's all set. And then I didn't hear from her for a long time. And then one day she calls me out of the blue, and I was horrified to know that the captain of the ship had been, making advances towards her. And when she, did not return those advances, he turned hostile towards her. And she had a fall from a height while working on the vessel. And she hurt her hand very badly and she needed to see a doctor. And he kind of just said, oh, you're just being a girl. And, he ignored it. And by the time they got her on shore to a doctor, had they delayed the surgery any further, she would have lost power in her hand. And I just felt that was a huge failure for me for not looking after her. And that's when I said, not on my watch. No longer on my watch. And that was one of the reasons why I felt MaritimeSheEO was started as well, because I said, I'm not going to let this happen again to anyone.
Yeah, and you must have felt, I can imagine that feeling of failure that you felt you'd achieved it. Yeah, you felt obviously some responsibility after that, even though you couldn't have controlled it. Yeah, I can understand that. But it did drive you to continue to work on, didn't it?
Yeah.
So what about people that inspire you, Sanjam? You talked about your father. What about is there anyone else in maritime that has inspired you?
So there are two women in maritime who really inspire me. I would like to say they are my mentors. One of them is Karen Orsel from the Netherlands. She's a self-made woman. She's a ship owner manager. And the second one is Katharina Stanzel. They both are wonderful women, and I see the way that not only are they very accomplished in their work, but they're also very good people, very good human beings.
Yeah, and we need role models, don't we? We all do.
We do.
If you can't see something to aspire to, and this is even especially true for people starting an earlier part of their career, you need to be able to see someone that you could relate to doing what you might want to do. Otherwise, it's very difficult to imagine that pathway, isn't it?
Exactly.
What about books? Because I'd love to recommend a book to my listeners. If there's a book that you found to be inspirational.
So the first book I read when I went to B school, and that's really long back, was Richard Branson's Losing My Virginity. And I know he's a very colorful character, but his story is amazing. And the whole story of how he started out and how he started the business, of course, he's a little crazy at times, but the whole journey was really, I think it was really great to read.
Yes. Oh, I agree. And I mean, you wouldn't believe how successful he became if you just took the first part of his book, as it were, where he's not succeeding, he's really keeps going and just, it's very inspiring, isn't it? I agree with that one, definitely.
Yes. And I think I was very studious. So I actually liked Peter Drucker and I liked Philip Kotler, marketing principles of marketing. I mean, I remember them even today. I mean, Drucker's, what is your business and what should it be? I mean, it was drilled into my head. And even today, and I still have my Philip Kotler principles of marketing in my bookshelf. So those books are really with me forever.
Yeah, that's so funny. I wasn't expecting that, Kotler, because I teach at university and I teach marketing and communications. And so, yeah, that's still on the bookshelf. And with all the changes that have happened in marketing, communications, business and technology, just so much of those theories still hold true.
Indeed.
Yeah. So what about the future then, Sanjam? I know you've got lots going on. You will have another SheEO conference next year, which is obviously going to be bigger and better and even more amazing people there, I'm sure. But what would you love to see happen? Is there anything you'd love to see change in the industry that you'd hope for in the future?
I'd obviously like to see the industry embrace diversity a lot more. But I'd also want the industry to be more kind to each other. I think that we are very cutthroat, and it's all right. But at a particular point of time, we stop being kind to each other. We just stop being human, We just be competitors, cutthroat, mean to each other, really nasty to each other. So I think we should step back, relax, be kind people, just be good to each other. We are all part of one industry. We need to be humble, kind, and embrace all the changes that are coming our way. Embrace diversity, embrace all the changes that are coming, changes in the market, changes with regards to diversity, and just, accept it all.
Yeah. Kindness, if everybody took that on board, that would probably change the world overnight, wouldn't it? I like that.
I know.
So I really enjoyed talking to you, and I'm going to be watching your activities with continued interest. And hopefully we can hear back from you in the future as well on progress. But I really enjoyed talking with you. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me on Women in Maritime. It's been wonderful.
Likewise, Julia. Thank you for having me.
If your brand belongs in the heart of the yachting world, this is where it happens. Yachting International Radio reaches over 1 million yachting professionals and enthusiasts every month, with 77 million impressions, 220,000 social followers, and 74,000 podcast subscribers. Our hosts are insiders, crew, captains, CEOs, trusted voices shaping the industry. This is targeted, high-impact advertising in a luxury niche. Visit yachtinginternationalradio.com/advertise. Your audience is already listening.